American farms, and I would say farms in general, are feeling pressures that no other generation have ever felt before. The cost of money is extremely high. Yeah, we've seen high cost of money in the past, but we haven't seen it coupled with the high volatility, the potential trade wars, and the potential actual physical wars that we may be entering in the near future. Being prepared is more important than it ever has been. And it's gonna define who's still in business in the next 10 years and who's the one on the outside looking in and saying, "What if?" And so, to me, it's very important that operators really understand the situation that they're in and paving a path forward that they can meet their long-term goals and ultimately, like many producers across the country, hand this off to the next generation and not see it gobbled up by another large corporation. We got to this point in agriculture, and I don't really think that the evolution that we've gone through in this industry was a bad thing. We've gone to pushing yields, pushing yields, pushing yields to produce more because prices were declining. We haven't had the financial instruments, or we didn't have the financial instruments in decades past to really mitigate the risk of declining profit margins like we do today. And so the only option was to either scale up or get bigger. Scaling up meaning produce more or acquire more ground. Concurrently, we've also seen land prices increasing worldwide because we've had global population growth at record numbers. We've also had an economy that has started demanding different elements to their food, which has actually contracted the food supply in some way, shapes, and form. And so when I think about where we are, I don't feel very negative about it. I feel a sense of calling that we have got to change. And if we don't change, then we're in trouble. And I always like to refer back to a lot of our upbringing was in FFA and 4-H. And within the FFA creed, it says, in the promise of better days through better ways, even as the better things we now enjoy have come to us from the struggle of our former years. This is almost scripture to many of us ag producers out there. And so if you're sitting here thinking that the things that we did in the past are going to work going forward, I can promise you, not even the people back in the days when that was written believed that was going to be true. It is forcing us to adapt and forcing us to grow. The ones that will be forced to adapt and grow and do it will see a level of success and happiness they could never have imagined. The ones that stay stagnant, the ones that refuse to change or don't want to grow themselves from an academic and from a production standpoint will be the ones that we leave behind. And those are casualties. And it's a casualty of the changing economy. It's the casualty of the wars that we're currently undergoing. And so it's your choice whether you want to live in that state of, I've taken my operation to the next level. I've taken what's been given to me to a point that I didn't even expect or even know was possible, or I was the one that dropped my legacy off for my family. I've often mentioned that there's been an attack on ag, and there really has. The more people have become removed from the farm themselves, then the more misunderstanding they have of how their food comes to their table. There's been survey after survey of people being asked where they think their food comes from. There's a lot of them that saying that their food comes from a grocery store. That just shows you how limited their view is on agriculture. And so you get people like Michael Pollan and these huge food movements for organics and natural and local and all that stuff to really put a bad image on agriculture for using pesticides and herbicides out there in order to help produce a more profitable crop. The reality is guys, for anybody that's not in agriculture, listen to this. This is the world's most historically safe food supply that has ever been produced. We've never had a major foodborne illness in the United States, very localized at best. We have a lot of government oversight, but for some reason, in order to sell books and propaganda, people have come out and attacking the American farmer for destroying the environment, for destroying our food systems and making people sick. I can promise you, I have talked to thousands of producers in my lifetime. Never have I ever met a producer that was in the business of growing a crop to kill people. And if they did that, that would be a big change in culture. Let's put it that way. The reality is people are in this business because they have a higher standard for themselves and everyone around them. They are not only thinking about the legacy of their own farm and their own family, they're thinking about the legacy of the world. The founders of this country believed that agriculture was the backbone of our economy. And not only was that accurate then, it is accurate now. And it is why we maintain our level as the world's superpowers because we control all of the food in this world. We are the most stable and consistent food producer. And so, if you're an agricultural producer, I can't tell you the level of endearment I have for you and what you do. It is super important that we find ways offer all of our services and for the economy and for the media to back off of the producers. If you want to attack Trump and you want to attack all these other people, go do that. But get off our producers' back. They're doing a great job. They're just trying to find a way to survive and bring it to the next stage. Organic production, natural, sustainable, all of these words have actually shrunk our food supply. And what's ironic to me is the people that are pushing these are the people that are self proclaimed humanitarians. What happens if it shrinks our food supply in the US where we have plenty of money to purchase all the food we need? That means that we are actually exporting less and at a higher price to those countries that really need it, that are starving, that aren't blessed with the same resources as we are. So I encourage everybody that listens to this to take a step back and really think about your position on agriculture and stop taking a position on something you actually know nothing about and be appreciative of the fact that we have built this country on agriculture. And because of agriculture today, we have the superpower status that we do. So if this trend continues where farms are going out of business year after year, the total stocks that we have in terms of corn, wheat, soybeans, that make food grade elements that we need to survive or raise the things that we survive start diminishing, the price of everything goes up. We talk about inflation. We talk about inflation a lot right now in the economy. There's something that they'll teach you in basic marketing class called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs starts with the basic physiological needs of a human. What that means is that all of these other things that we purchase, even technology, gas, and everything, is predicated on really two different elements. The two most inelastic, meaning no matter how much it goes up, we're still going to buy it: food and water. So if food goes up, that means we have less money to purchase gas, electronics, and all of these pipe dream beautiful ideas that people have on climate change and organics and all of this other stuff that are so important. So if you care about having that element of a comfortable lifestyle with plenty of wealth in order to kind of dictate the path of your life, then we need to be protecting the American farm first and foremost. If you want to slow inflation, we damn sure better be taking care of our ability to produce a crop in this country. Because if that dwindles, then all of these other aspirations that you guys have are just wishful. And so to the American farmer out there, and really to farmers everywhere around the world, guys, we have your back. And there's a way of stepping up to this challenge and adapting, and we can help you guide through that. And it's up to you to decide if you want to be a casualty of the situation that we're going through, or if you're going to get to the other side of this deal and create a path forward. We've done it. We've taken people from complete despair to hope. And I think we can do it for you. Don't wait till it's too late. When we're in chapter 12 or people are repossessing your equipment, we've got a problem. Not to say that the path isn't successful in the long run, but when you have to start out 10 feet below before we can actually start building something up, that makes it very difficult. But you guys are the best people on earth, in my opinion. And I think that if you give us a chance, we can absolutely help you elevate your standards for your operation. Guys, I know there's a lot of pressures right now out in the industry, and one of the ones that's really glaring to a lot of producers is the banking pressures. Banks that seem ready and willing to do just about anything that you ask them to do, all of a sudden overnight have changed. And that's because the general nature of banking. Commercial banks are really fickle. They've always got one foot in and one foot out when it comes to agriculture. And you have to really understand kind of the general banking mentality to understand kind of why that is. But let's just put it this way. Banking's or agricultural is high risk, low margin. And the only reason that they get into it in the first place is to diversify their portfolio holdings, most of them. There are institutions out there that's not the case. There are people out there. There are commercial banks if that's not the case. But we also look at the insurance companies. The insurance companies are finding it harder and harder to stay in business. We talk about global climate change. There may be some of that going on. There may be shifting patterns. But the reality is, what has really changed the way insurance is the extreme highs and the extreme lows of our cropping cycles. And it makes it extremely hard to stay in business, even under a federally subsidized product. And so, how do we stay in business when others don't? We got to have a plan. It all starts with understanding your numbers and taking control of the situation back from the third parties that you're dealing with. This is something we really focus on, and this is something we're successful on. And I'm going to tell you, there are great third parties out there that we know and we love working with, and I know will take good care of you. And our goal is to guide you to those. In some situations, it may not always be the case, but we will do our best to find some way to keep you guys operating and getting you to the next level if that is your ultimate goal. I've noticed with all of these new pressures that we have in the industry, what we're also seeing is higher stress loads that translate into difficult relationships in their home and with their kids. And if you're depressed, that situation bleeds over into the other people that you care about. And so you have to ask yourself, is this situation that I am something that I can rise above and get over and move forward? Is this a situation because I feel alone? I know a lot of producers feel like they're alone in this battle, alone signing the documents, alone in their understanding, and they're just out there trying to fight off the army of 300 by themselves. But the reality is there are people out there that want to help you. There are people that want to help you understand and peel off one stress at a time in order to improve those relationships with your family, improve those relationships with your vendors and your friends, and get you back into a place of happiness and fruitfulness and in that pace of creativity in your own operation. So I'm going to challenge you guys whenever you get in those tough situations, things are getting tight. We're in the middle of the growing season. The weather hasn't worked out. Your calving cycle hasn't quite panned out the way you thought it was going to be. That you remember why you started this business, why you chose this profession. You chose this profession primarily because one, you felt probably a little bit of importance in carrying on the legacy and potentially handing it off to your family down the road. You may have felt like this is what I love, this is what I want to do. The reason you love it is because you're contributing to a higher purpose, whether you believe it or not. I honestly believe a lot of people do this because they understand that what they do means something. We're not building computer chips, we're not, building cars. We're feeding people. We're the most basic element in the entire world. And honestly, that makes you the most important people in the entire world. And so you need to remember that whenever you're getting in these tough times. I want to wrap all this up to really talking about a little bit about Legacy Farmer and where we stand. When Jay started this company was born out of a situation like many other operations are going through in the country. They're losing their family's legacy, and he had to witness that firsthand. He had to see what the ramifications were for that. And it was a tragedy and it felt like a death. And that death permeates through every element of his business. But here at Legacy Farmer, we've developed a new vision forward. And the vision forward is protecting the legacy of agriculture one family at a time. And we mean that. And when we say one family at a time, that's because we take an individualized approach to really understand where you are, where your pressure points are, but also focusing on those elements that we know are non negotiable in terms of getting you to the next level. We work hard to be patient, communicate clearly, and understand that not every operation is the same and not every operation's goals are the same. Ultimately, we want to share in your vision and we want to help you protect that situation that has been so diligently and gracefully handed to you. So if this sounds anything like what you're dealing with, please click the link below. Let's start those initial conversations and let's start you on the path of success.